Hi, I'm Kirby Allison, and I'm back here in London for what is one of the most important gatherings of shoe aficionados in the world, the London Super Trunk Show. This event serves as a host to many different companies from within the shoemaking industry and provides an opportunity for those who appreciate quality, craftsmanship, and tradition to indulge themselves in a feast of appreciation for the incredible work that these shoemakers continue to deliver. The London Super Trunk Show also sees visitors travel in from all over the world for 3 outstanding competitions: the World Championship of Shoemaking, the World Championship of Patina, and the World Championship of Shoe Shining. In this, which is my 3rd year of covering the event, I am honored once again to be serving as a judge in the World Championship of Shoemaking. And I can assure you, after having seen these shoes last night and judged them, we have one of the best lineups of craftsmanship that I've ever seen. So join me as we step inside the 2023 London Super Trunk Show to experience the quality, the craftsmanship, and the tradition of shoemaking at its best. Hi, I'm Kirby Allison, and I'm back in London for one of Bespoke Shoemaking's most important and highly anticipated events of the entire year, the World Championship of Shoemaking. This event is held annually and pulls together some of the world's most talented bespoke shoemakers as they showcase their talents in competition with one another for the coveted title of World Champion of Shoemaking.
Final stop of the day here at the stage area, where we will announce the top 10 of the World Championships of Shoemaking 2023. So it's the 4th edition of the contest, organized by Shoegazing and the Shoe Snob, in collaboration with Kirby Allison, Master Shoemakers, the book, and Parker Shoemaker, the brother of the contest co-founder Edmund Shoemaker, who sadly passed away 2 years ago. The previous winners have been Patrick Frey from Germany in 2018. We had Daniel Wigan from UK, Sweden in 2019. And then after the hiatus of the COVID years, last year we had Wataru Shimamoto of Japan, who won the 2022 edition. So the jury consists of first a smaller group of shoe experts, which is me and Justin. And we had Kirby Allison then, and Gary Tock of Master Shoemakers. And then a majority were actual shoemakers. We had Sebastian Tarek, Jean-Michel Casalonga from Berluti, Dominic Casey, Masaru Okoyama, and Daniel Wigan. The shoe to be made this year, as you've all seen here, and I hope that you had a chance to look at them, is a black Balmoral boot, lace-up model, closed lacing with broad punched cap toe, smooth black box cuff, upper leather sole, and should mention that the shoe trees, they are not part of the judging, so you all know that. We had 29 shoes sent in the end, from 14 different countries, so yeah, really a world championship. I think it was 4 continents or something like that. So what is judged is the degree of difficulty, which is max 10 points, where we look at how complicated the construction methods is and advanced they are built and so on. We look at execution, Also max 10 points per you remember how well the various parts have been made, and the clean, how the work and the level of finishing, so on. And then we have design aesthetics, which is maximum 5 points, where we look at the overall sort of design and aesthetics and the pattern proportions and balance and so on. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go from position 10 up to position 1. And the other contestants will be announced the position later on. A very large blog post on shoegazing and the shoe snob. The top 3 receiving in total £6,000, with £3,000 to the winner, £2,000 to the second place, and £1,000 to the third position 1. They get to go on a world tour to about 10-11 different locations. Among them Isota Men's in Japan, so showcased for a lot of shoe nerds. They get a shoemaking awl from Phil Norsworthy, who create fantastic awls for shoemaking. So there's really some perks for the top 3. We start off with position number 10, Andrei Kaveshnikov from Russia. So he's a shoemaker in Moscow. He also holds courses online, and one of the more famous Russian shoemakers, I'd say. Number 9 is Jim Shoemaker from China. It's made by Grey Jim, based in Guangzhou. He's one of the first Chinese makers that sort of made a name of himself internationally. And I should say that he made all of the boot himself there. 8th position is Kenjiro Kawashima from South Korea/Japan. He was placed 3rd last year's competition. Comes from Japan but lives in Seoul. He had also worked for Norman Villalta in Spain for a number of years doing his Bespoke. And now he's setting up his own brand. Really a very cool shoe, hammered sole and some really interesting details. 7th position, we have Juan Panelet from France. Claire Daubé made the closing of the upper, and then Juan Panelet made the rest. He's relatively new in shoemaking. He went through the Le Compagnie de Devoir trainee program, finished that in 2019. And then he has worked in Nantes, but now I think he's in Paris working. Number 6, Acme Shoemaker from China. So this is a large shoemaking workshop based in Beijing. Sort of hard to see, but it is actually more than 3 pieces of leather. They have a very hidden break under braided stitching there along the Balmoral line. But we checked so that they follow the instructions. And it's been made by a bunch of people that we will list on the website later on. We are at top 5. We have William F.A. Laborde from the UK/France. And he's here. Congratulations, William. He's a shoemaker based in London, and he's made a really vintage-inspired shoe. Looks like the old Victorian boots that you could see 150 years ago. And that's been his aim. It's glaze kid, leather, and a lot of actually antique materials used. Very nice shoe. Position 4, we have Nayuta Takahashi from Japan. So he is from the Kanagawa region in southwest of Tokyo. He has worked as an outworker for several brands for many years. And now he ran his own brand, where he has sort of invented interwoven broguing technique, which is taken from papercraft. If you come and look at it later, you will see that he has a sort of version of that here on this boot here. Okay, top 3 left. 3rd position, getting a shoemaking awl, being part of the tour, and £1,000. We have Louise Lampertsdorfer from Germany. And I think he's here somewhere as well. Very nice, very well-made shoe. Also very classic, traditional, I believe so. But it's seamless pieces and very, very neat. So Luis has worked for, apprenticed and worked for Gatzian and Gerling, and now he's running his own brand from Munich, which is Mogada. And I should say that the upper has been made by Ras Maftei in Vienna, and then the shoe tree, which isn't part of the judging, is by Hervé Brunel, and then the rest is made by Luis himself. Second place is Victor Vulpe from Romania, who is here, yeah. Congratulations, Victor. He made everything himself. He has worked with leathercraft for almost 30 years, and since 15 years he started making shoes. Trained by yourself, right? And the shoe is very special looking, as you see. It's a lot of cool details, special pattern, and the tongue going up here and the heel, and yeah, very cool looking shoe. Okay, first place and the World Champion of Shoemaking 2023 is Athanase Sefoglu from France. Unfortunately, I don't think that he's here. He was here in 2019 when he entered the previous year. I think he finished round top 10 or something like that. But he put in a lot of effort this year, for sure. I should mention that Athanase Sefoglu, he works for Berluti. He works in the Anthony Delos workshop. And as you know, part of the jury, we had Jean-Michel Casalonga from Berluti, who actually didn't know at all that he felt a bit embarrassed that he didn't recognize it. But since they work in different workshops. But we also did, to not have any discussions, we removed Jean-Michel's points as well, and actually no position at all were changed. So it's all fair and square. So he's 32 years old. He has been appointed the best worker of France in 2019, Athanase Sefoglu. He made everything himself, but the stitching of the upper was made by Lise Simon. So he has worked in different companies, first in orthopedics and show shoes, but then for more than 10 years he's been working for Berluti in the second workshop down in Maine-et-Loire, where he works with Anthony Delos. Yeah. The most spectacular part of this shoe is obviously the bottom and the way that he has pulled the upper leather coming down below it, and a very clever construction, both difficult and a lot of thought going into this. And it's very well executed, hand-stitched details also on the upper, just an amazing shoe overall. So well-deserved winner. And all these and also the others, there's so many great shoes. Take your time and look at them. And yeah, once again, congratulations to the top three.
Congratulations. Of course, we've got Louis and Victor, third and second place, and then first place from France, unfortunately, is not able to be here with us. But I just have to say congratulations, gentlemen. I mean, to even rank it first, second, and third, seems to almost be a disservice, because the quality of all of these finalists in the top 10 is just superb, the finest I've ever seen.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So how is it? I mean, how does it feel? I know that you've put a lot of work into these shoes. We'll ask you to talk through them in a little bit, but I mean, I know that shoemaking is a career of passion, and so it has to be, just an incredibly satisfactory honor today to be amongst the top three in the World Championship.
Yeah, I can start first.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, it's for me personally, it's an amazing journey. I dreamed for being here for many years, so this is quite a historical moment for everybody, because something like this has never been seen for
over 100
years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since another Romanian shoemaker like me won a very important competition held in Vienna before the Second World War.
Really? Okay.
This guy is unknown, is without a name, just the deed remains and the legend.
Yeah.
You know, so I was so inspired because I didn't know about this guy and what he did. It became like an obsession for 2 years now. So it's like escaping from the prison now. You know, I feel like an inmate who's gone out.
Yeah.
I'm afraid after this I will make just only shoes.
Yeah.
You know, nothing like this. It's very hardcore shoemaking. So that everybody will understand what is this all about. It's a method which is called a full closed method, which is trapping the last inside without any chance to escape afterwards.
Okay.
So before lasting, the uppers are stitched shut intentionally. And the last is so exotic, and the procedure to make it disappear, it's so complex. It's
magic.
It's magic. It's some kind of, yeah.
So is the last inside the shoe, or it hasn't been removed?
Yeah, it's an empty boot. Yeah, but the process of making the last disappear, it's like Houdini stuff. I mean, literally. So it's shoemaking and something more than that. So I study and I tried this method for 2 years now. So it's kind of, you know, heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Very heavy.
And so, Victor, I mean, are you making shoes full time? No, it's a kind of a hobby of yours, right?
Yeah, I want to make shoes for all time, to earn my living through this. But in my condition there in Romania, it's almost impossible. So I have clients, but there are 5 clients maximum in 1 year. Okay. So it's a very, very limited, because I'm alone, I cannot do fast things.
Absolutely.
You know, so I have to.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely astounding work. We'll have you talk through
So this is, excuse me, this is in honor of this unknown shoemaker. And it's unknown, you know, that's an amazing thing.
Yeah, well, you're really honoring his legend with this work.
In 100 years, someone will remember my shoes and not my name. That's a thing to admire.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, for someone that's passionate about the craft, I mean, really, you want your work to speak, more loudly and to really transcend yourself. I mean, one of the things whenever I look back to these shoes, and we had an opportunity to bring one back from Lobb, from John Lobb, from their cases that was over 100 years old, probably late 19th century, and to see that work so many years later is just astounding. And we think that we've been developing so much, but really the craft, the tradition of this craft is so rich. And again, one of the things I love about shoemaking is that shoemakers such as yourselves really perpetuate this tradition that is an ancient tradition that has been around for a long time.
Yes.
Now, Louis, I know this is your shoe.
Yes.
I mean, again, one of the things I love so much about the model that we chose this year is as a Balmoral boot, it echoes so closely those traditional models that we knew from the late 19th and early 20th century. I mean, I think as someone commented, I mean, this, if someone told me was made 100 years ago, I'd believe them just in terms of the beauty, the elegance, the aesthetic.
I definitely took a lot of inspiration from these early 20th century samples, but I also had I wanted to give it like a contemporary interpretation in a way. So I think it's up to the viewer what you see in it. If you see more of like a historic piece or something like that, or if you see a modern Balmoral boot, it's up to the viewer. Yes.
Well, it's certainly not archaic in any way. I mean,
no.
And so it is as beautiful and elegant today as I'm sure it would be a long time ago. What were, you're talking about kind of, echoing some more modern elements into this. What were those?
I think it's, when you look at the pattern, the shapes of the pattern, I always try to have like a nice flowing shape in terms of the curves of the vamp and these, and also like here in the back there on the seamless vamp, you have like this little peak going up, little things like that. So To me, when I made the pattern, it felt like this would be a modern Balmoral boot that someone could wear today without standing out in any way. So, or maybe standing out because it's a well-made shoe, but it doesn't look too like a historic piece. It looks like modern, like it would be fit for modern life in a way. Yes.
Well, I mean, the style is absolutely incredible, and I know it's no small amount of work that goes into these exhibition quality shoes.
Yeah.
I mean, just out of curiosity, I mean, Victor, if you were to estimate, how much time you put into this, what do you think?
I told you.
Is it even possible?
Yeah. It's countless, because I don't know. It's 2 years in making. I mean, the process to prepare. So plus maybe 4 months. Yeah, but actually doing this, it took me 1 month. But it was so crazy. My wife gets so worried about me because I work tirelessly.
Yeah.
Every day for 15, 16 hours a day. So it was close to the limit, to the abyss or something like that.
Yeah. Louis, what would you say?
I've been asked that many times today. I think maybe like 150 hours, but then another 150 hours just thinking, worrying about it, and
Well, I mean, it's really astounding. So, I mean, talk a little bit on this shoe. I mean,
Yes.
So much of the criteria is just overall design, but it was also difficulty in execution. We can see that this has been executed beautifully, it's designed beautifully.
Thank you.
But what were the nuanced elements of shoemaking craft that you would say made this particularly difficult?
The seamless vamp, which is really something that makes sense on a Balmoral boot because the vamp is going all the way around, so it's just a nicer way of doing it without a seam in the back. Then the horseshoe heel and the narrow waist, together with the 20 stitches per inch sole stitching. Those were like the main features, I would say. Yeah. And what else? Yeah, and like trying to have it consist of as few pieces as possible. I had like 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, and preparing all the leather pieces on the last before they were assembled in Vienna by my friend and fellow shoemaker Ras Maftai, and then I got the upper back and started making the shoes. Yes.
I mean, really, beautifully executed.
Thank you.
And you're really making me want a Balmoral boot. Now I understand that you do have a bespoke shoemaking business based in Germany,
yes,
right?
In Munich, Germany. Yes,
so,
you know where to find me.
So I could in fact commission a shoe like this.
Yes, yeah, sure. I mean, I would maybe
Wouldn't be
recommend.
quite this exaggerated, but
Yeah, I would maybe recommend my customer to do the heel a bit differently.
Yeah.
Just so that there is more substance to it. But other than that, there's like no difference. Yeah.
And Victor, again, I don't even know where to start with this shoe. The leather engraving, the embroidery of the stitching, the cutouts. Again, the stitching right here. Is this? What's the SPI on that? Is it even
30.
13?
No, 30.
30.
30. Yes. 30. Yeah. Sorry.
Amazing.
It's not easy to make, of course. You are always in danger to cut the thread you previously done. So after 2 days, I go around the thing, and it's 360 holes. And after 3 hours of doing it, my head is, I had to stop, and I was in the same place. It's just, and it's crazy. Yeah.
And another beautiful nuanced detail here, again, this is something that we're seeing in some of these shoes, is the braided seam. So this isn't a single row of stitching, but this is, correct me, tell me how this is done.
It's handmade, of course. We don't have a sewing machine for this. It's not invented yet. So it's stitched with a black normal thread. Yeah. And then the golden, you see here, the golden thread is going like this.
Going through it.
Through it, yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, but also it's very complicated to go so straight, and in the same time to pull the leather and all the creases underneath the heel and not modify this line. That's something. It's very. I mean, step by step, you can do it, but not in one go.
And talk to me a little bit about this heel. I mean, this is another really interesting element. Judging it yesterday, of course, I was very impressed by it, but what was the inspiration?
I do it before. It's I call it a sunken jockey heel.
Okay.
It's I don't know, my invention or something like that. So it's multi-stage. It's like a printing machine. You are going to eliminate some layers, and you obtain some kind of three-dimensional form.
And then what's this right here?
The spur, in my mind, has to do with horse riding, and since it's a jockey heel, I said, why not? Maybe I should do it on my regular shoes. It's kind of naughty a little bit and catches your eyes immediately. So
I was pushing to see if this was spring-loaded. You know.
no, but it will kill nobody. You know, it's just to give you something to do.
Well, and they're absolutely killer shoes. And gentlemen, again, congratulations. And you guys have a lot to celebrate tonight. Louis, you know, it's so great to see you back. And you know, third place, incredible. And Victor, you know, congratulations. You've got really so much to be proud of. Yeah. And so this brings us now to the 2013 World Champion of Shoemaking, Athanase. This is a French shoemaker that is currently working at Berluti. Unfortunately, he's been unable to join us, and so I thought we'd bring the 2019 World Champion of Shoemaking, Daniel Wiegand, hopefully to do a little bit of justice, just pointing out the finer, more nuanced elements of just incredible workmanship that we've seen in this shoe. I mean, Daniel, I know since 2019 we've continued to see, I guess, the boundary pushed.
No, this is absolutely beautiful work, and it's usually when we do the judging, you kind of go and have a look at all the shoes to kind of know what shoes is going to need a little bit extra attention and be a top contender for the top prize. And it's a beautiful classic representation of the style. But turning it over, it definitely has
some showstoppers.
And I'm a little bit familiar with this maker's work before, and I see his identity here. But yeah, the delicate work and the asymmetric waist treatment, it just takes a lot of really careful planning when you make a shoe like this to not run into a dead end, or make it look messy. And this really looks a very well executed, very complicated bit of shoemaking.
Yeah, I mean, the three criteria with which we judge, you were a judge this year as well, is difficulty, execution, and style.
Yeah.
And so just walk through each one of those.
Yeah, so difficulty, it's just, it's a Balmoral. Everyone's familiar with how they're made. I think the difficulty of the upper making here, you're looking at the fine hand sewing, and especially planning your upper to give enough allowance to create this asymmetric leather-covered bottom, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
So you definitely have to do some careful planning. So difficulty is high, and it's a very clean execution of that difficult concept.
Yeah.
And even though it's very difficult and complicated, it doesn't make a mess of the style. It's still very classic, elegant, and what I would say a good representation of like a French style lost.
Yeah.
And when I saw it on the shelf, I was like, oh, I wonder if this is a French shoe. And it was. And maybe I was a little bit biased because it shares some of the elements that my shoe had, with the ridged back and the ridged heel, with the hollow shell heel as well. And I feel like it's taking that idea and then elevating it. Yeah. So, look forward to seeing what happens next year, if there's any sew left.
It's incredible, again, to see that this craft, which at the bespoke level is already practiced at the highest level, can continue to be pushed.
Yeah, for sure. And this is the level to beat this year. So we'll see what happens next year.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we'll hit the limit where all shoes start looking the same every year, but hopefully I have a little bit of a way to go.
Well, we'll start doing sandals then.
Sandals, Crocs.
Yeah. Great. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for kind of helping us further appreciate quality, the craftsmanship, the tradition.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
the idea of a contest amongst shoemakers to showcase their skill is in fact not a novel idea. This event, in fact, drew its inspiration from the championships that were held alongside the world fairs of the late 19th and early 20th century. And it is really quite remarkable to see in this year's work the craftsmanship in many ways matching what we saw from what was one of the most dynamic eras of the bespoke shoemaking trade. The concept of a world championship in shoemaking is not a particularly modern one. Indeed, it draws upon the competitions that were held during the world's fairs of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Bespoke shoemaking was, at that time, one of London's largest and most competitive trades, with shoemakers constantly attempting to outdo one another in what was a very competitive industry. So to really showcase this, I reached out to my good friends at John Lobb on St. James's Street. Of course, they are the oldest and most prestigious bespoke shoemaker, and inside their shop on St. James's, they of course have their famous cabinets showcasing a lot of this historical work. So they were very kind in lending me one of those such shoes for an hour to show as a comparison to the work that we're seeing today. So this shoe right here is one of the famous World Championship shoes that you can find in John Lobb at St. James's Street from their cabinets. And this would have been made at the end of the 19th century during one of those competitions. Now, of course, this isn't a shoe that would have necessarily been worn by a customer. This was a competition shoe, and you can see that the craft is showcased at the absolute highest level. Now, one of the things that I found really fascinating about this year's entrance is that they were Balmoral boots, the same models that you would have found as amongst the most popular back in the late 19th century. And so it's an opportunity to really see so closely the similarities in proportions, in silhouettes, and pattern making, and finally in the actual workmanship of the shoes that are a part of this year's competition when compared to these historical examples. I have to say I'm astounded that, again, work can be done today at this level using the same techniques at the same level that you found over 100, 120 years ago. Bespoke shoemaking truly is quality, craftsmanship, and tradition practiced at the highest level. And I thought it would be fun to talk a little bit about how this year's competition really showcases the elevation of the craft back to really what was a historical standard. And one of the things that we spoke about earlier is how the concept of a World Championship of Shoemaking isn't a new one. In fact, back in the late 19th century and early 20th century at the World's Fairs, you saw exactly these types of competitions.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we wanted to bring back, so to speak. Contests that actually really pushed the craft and made the shoemakers do things that they hadn't tried before and try new things, push the techniques. That's the whole idea of bringing back these wonderful contests that pushed the craft forward.
So one of the things that I did is I reached out to my good friends at John Lobb. Of course, everyone knows John Lobb on St. James's Street, the oldest and probably most important of all of the bespoke shoemakers in the trade. But certainly they've been around the longest. I mean, they've got this uninterrupted tradition. And one of the things that they've been able to really collect over the 170 years that they've been in business is one of the most incredible collections of old artifacts of the trade. And everyone knows their beautiful cabinets from within John Lobb have some of these exhibition shoes from the late 19th century and early 20th. So they were very kind. They lent us, one such shoe for, I think, an hour I was given to kind of take this off the premises. Yeah. Who knows the last time that this has left, the St. James's Street. But I thought it would be an interesting moment to really kind of show the parallels between what was being done as a competition shoe in the late 19th century and the type of work that we're seeing today in the World Championship of Shoemaking. And one of the other things I thought was fascinating is that, again, because this year's call for entry was a Balmoral boot, of course, in that era, boots is what people were wearing.
Yeah, that was the standard footwear.
Yeah. And so you can really see the similarities both in the silhouette, the aesthetic, but also in the make. And so, Daniel, I thought, as 2019 world champion, bespoke shoemaker, I thought maybe you could kind of point out some of these nuanced characteristics or elements that maybe to the untrained eye, one would miss.
If we look at these button boots, obviously they're very representative of the time. Both, like you say, the style was what was more worn by most people, and the things that we all like in shoemaking is like fine stitching, thin heel stacks, slim, tight waists. All the things that were popular back then are still popular today, and what make people exciting.
Yeah.
If you look at this shoe by William, it's a very similar silhouette with a kind of, very curved instep, fine stitching, very, period pattern proportions. And it's very obvious to me, like I obviously know William, and I know that he loves this area of shoemaking and want to make things that carries that aesthetic tradition forward. And I think he's done a great job of it. The eyeletted, like even today, you don't really see a lot of metal eyelets on traditional shoes like this, but in the past was quite common with the wider silk laces with the frayed ends.
And the upper leather is made of the same materials, glaze kid, which was very common back in those times. Very thin,
fine.
Fine, quite sensitive leather. And I know that this is a vintage glaze kid that William used for the shoe.
Yeah, this type of leather where I think, everyone's, it's not a new thing to want to wear a slim, elegant shoe. That's been everyone wanted to wear for almost as long as we can go back. And, having a soft, fine leather, helps you get away with something slimmer, more close-fitting, and get that glove-like feel. I think today a lot of people would expect something sturdier, longer lasting out of their shoes. Yeah. But back then, for fine footwear, for people that maybe lived a lifestyle where their shoes didn't live a very hard life, it was quite a common option.
Well, it's certainly not a pair of riding boots, right?
No.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the other things that we've seen in the comments in years past is people pointing out that the silhouettes of the competition shoes are completely unlike any of the silhouettes that someone would find in a real shoe that is being worn. And I think again, seeing this historic example, from John Lobb from the late 19th century shows that when it came to the showcasing of really the pinnacle of the craft, we saw the exaggeration of silhouettes and really the distillation down to these proportions that were beautiful. And there is clearly an absolute truth to that, because this shoe from over 100 years ago is just as beautiful today as it was then. And we see that these shoes that are a part of the 2023 competition, echoing those same proportions,
and
are striking.
And in 100 years, probably people will look at this shoe and be as amazed as we are by this one.
Yeah, the top 5 or the top 3 contenders of each competition we've had, they would stand up against most high-level shoemaking, whether it be 100 or 50 years ago. The world has changed a little bit. The materials used and the leathers available are slightly different, but the precision of the top contenders in these competitions, have nothing to be embarrassed about. Yeah. It's lovely work, and I think Jim McCormick said it in an interview made in previous years that this level of shoemaking really hasn't been touched until this competition was brought back. And it's amazing to see how quickly it's really picked up speed, and it's very comparable to something that's been dead for
dormant. We'll call it dormant. Asleep. And a gentle slumber.
I think it's always existed in shoemakers and shoe enthusiasts' conscience that these competitions were around, but to now see it like kind of thrive and prosper and come back every year, it's really every year the level goes up a bit, and you reinvest those efforts into the next year's competition.
Especially, I think the highest level has been sort of around the same, but from below, it's pushed up. So the top is much tighter now, and you see more effort spent.
The middle contenders, they were much more mundane, shall we say, and maybe just normal good shoes. But people realize that it's a competition now, and if you just making a normal pair of shoes that you'd make for a client, it's not going to get you very high. So, people are coming up with great ways of, making them have an edge or get the attention of the judges and the visitors here.
Well, it is an opportunity to showcase, one's skill as a shoemaker. And really, I mean, in like all sports, I mean, look at the Olympics. I mean, that is at such a high level, it really bears little relevance or resemblance to kind of how most people are practicing their sport. And then here in shoemaking at the World Championship, I mean, we see, again, those boundaries pushed to the highest level, not because they're pragmatic and bare application to how one is going to make a pair of bespoke shoes for a client, but because it gives the shoemaker an opportunity to really showcase, the top level of their abilities.
And we see things that, I mean, you haven't seen very much creativity and pushing things. And what's nice to see is also that many of these things then show up in clients' shoes as well. They bring these things they do it for the contest, but then they start making it for clients as well, like the
Reach
waist and
or
reach back and stuff like that, which you start to see in customer shoe as well. So.
Yeah, it's quite rare that a shoe that won a competition gets ordered by a client as an identical copy. But a lot of people like to pick and mix their favorite elements and apply it in their dream shoe. So it definitely works as a way of displaying ideas. And sometimes it's not even only my clients. I'm sure clients would have seen something I made and order it from their shoemaker and the other way around. So it just puts it into the world of shoemaking and it gets adapted.
Yeah, well, and there's certain practical elements like stitch density and some of these design, and then there's certain slightly less pragmatic opportunities like the beautiful bottom work and heel work on this shoe. But this is where that creativity and the fun really shines through in the shoemaker, being able to push the boundaries, experiment, and really showcase their incredible abilities.
There's lots of planning and thought going into not only being able to make this, but also the idea and how to put it all together and the patterns and all that. That makes it really, really cool.
Well, one of the other things, again, that I'm struck by, and again, it's just the similarities between these two shoes. I mean, if you don't mind pointing a few more out, I mean, the stitch density here, on the welt, again, is very similar to the stitch density you see on this example, how thinly it's trimmed, even just how thin the outsole is. Again, not very pragmatic, but if you're showcasing absolute beauty, this is incredibly elegant.
Not supposed to be walked in a lot. No.
Yeah, what I find really interesting is look at all these shoes. You can tell that they were not made at the same time, but the adjustments needed to be made from what the standard shoe for a client would be today to it to be an exhibition piece that's reminiscent of this era. It's so little. It's really like stitch density, material choices, and little things like that. And they look like they almost could have been in a competition together 100 years ago.
Oh, they really could have been. And then also, what about, hand stitching? I know that we saw that in many of this year's shoes where the actual upper was hand stitched together. Again, something that we would have seen in a shoe from this era, right, at this level. You never would have seen that necessarily in a customer shoe, even Bespoke. But then we see this in some of the competition shoes that we have before us.
Yeah, I think it's really cool to see that back. It's something that disappeared quite early in this kind of shoes. The hand sewing of the uppers is really interesting, but it's actually something that hasn't been around for that long in the era of shoemaking that we associate with the kind of dress shoe. Because if you look at handmade uppers in a museum, you go way, way further back and types of footwear that is quite disconnected from what we're into. But there was like a little sweet spot era of those kind of world's fairs and so on, where the empire displayed its greatest skill, where you can see these things. And
even just looking at the heels, I'll turn these around. Again, it shows the fact that a lot of the techniques and a lot of the principles that we see today in the World Championship of Shoemaking, really were just as much present 100 plus years ago. Again, look at the exaggerated silhouette, the thin top lifts, right, that are composing the heel stack, how the heels are higher, right, than what you might associate. You see it in this incredible boot right here. And then also even this one, which of course, takes it to an even different level with that horseshoe kind of silhouette. And
Yeah, and these kind of shoes it's quite common in what would be referred to as prize work, competition shoes, masterpieces, late mid 1800s. There's plenty of examples in museums around the world where this kind of what they refer to as a shell heel would be for display and show of skill. But I've never seen anything like that delicate on a shoe for a person, even in that era. So it is a complete competition thing.
It's not a practical thing. There's no point in doing that.
But it would be very fragile, even for a person of a much more delicate build.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jesper, this is the 4th year of the World Championship of Shoemaking. As you look forward to the next few years, what is it that you're excited about?
Yeah, like I said, the fact that every year when we jury these shoes and we start looking at them, we see new things that haven't been maybe ever done before. And I love that fact that the creativity, not only pushing the craft but also doing special things. Yeah. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Be surprised and amazed every year.
Yeah, I think you make a good point because, of course, a lot of what we're seeing is the resurrection of a standard of craftsmanship that existed 100 years ago, but that we haven't seen for a long time. This is such a great example. But we're also seeing, new techniques and new embellishments that didn't exist back here being developed and showcased through the work that we see here at the World Championship of Shoemaking.
Yeah. And I think it helps with the optimism of the future for these crafts, that it's not everything was better in the old days. Like you adapt to the times and the taste of the new clients, and the world around us is different, and that's where we take our inspiration from. So we're gonna make different shoes, but they're just different. They're not worse or not as great as the old shoes. It's just this is a continuation of this legacy. And I think the skill has always been there amongst the shoemaker community, but it's now that there's a forum to display it, it kind of sparks a little fire, and people there's a place to put that. Before it's like you have an idea, but you're like, where am I going to use it? Now there's a place to use it, and you can be rewarded for it.
Yeah, and they will be touring the world, many different places, so that as many people as possible can see it, not only on photos and films, but also in the flesh, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I find myself constantly inspired by the quality, the craftsmanship, and the tradition that we find here within the bespoke shoemaking trade. And at this competition, at the World Championship, we really see the 3 of those displayed on full display at an absolutely incredible level. So it's of course an honor to be serving as a judge, with the 2 of you, and to be a part of this and have the opportunity to really share this incredible work with the world. Yeah. So there we have it, the 2023 London Super Trunk Show, World Championship of Shoe Shining, World Championship of Patina, and World Championship of Shoemaking. This has been an incredible day, a collection of some of the most important people in the world of shoemaking and bespoke shoemaking. And it's so great to see everyone come together and really support this craft, the quality, the craftsmanship and tradition that we find in bespoke shoes. I have to say it's a little bit surreal for me to be here not just as a judge, but to have the privilege and the opportunity to really present this to all of you who've been unable to make it. This is everything that I love about shoemaking. The idea, the nostalgia, that totally by hand these shoes can be crafted the same way today that they have been for over 100 years, I've always found absolutely astounding. These are complete and utter works of art, sculpture and craft practiced at the highest level. And to see these shoes, to see the entire lineup has really just been an incredible day for me. So I think it's time for a drink, a cigar, and to really celebrate all of the people that have come together and that are doing this work to perpetuate this tradition. Of course, we will be hosting our own Super Trunk Show in New York, October 14th. So if you haven't been able to make it and you're in America, book that date and block your calendar. We'd love to see you in New York. And if you haven't visited KirbyAllison.com, please take a moment to do so. Of course, it's the best way to support the work that we're doing here on this channel. There you'll find the largest collection of luxury garment care and luxury shoe care accessories in the world, as well as other great clothing accessories for the well-dressed, like this necktie, pocket square, socks, braces, and so much more. I'm Kirby Allison here in London at the 2023 World Championship of Shoemaking. And as you all know, I love to help the well-dressed acquire and care for their wardrobes while exploring the world of quality, craftsmanship, and tradition. Thanks for watching.